Well, I want to begin this morning by saying if you are visiting with us this morning, we do welcome you. We're grateful that you're here. Today's message is not a typical message, so you're going to have to come back again to see if you like the preaching, because this is anything but a sermon this morning in many regards. This is more of a housekeeping issue, if you will, that maybe we need to take care of, but it's a lengthy one, and it has a lot of spiritual attributes, so I figured that this might be the best place to address it. I want you to know that I truly am honored and blessed and feel lucky every day to be able to do what I do for a living, to be able to be a preacher, not just a preacher or a pastor, but specifically the pastor of this church. Our family loves you all. You may not know that because you don't, whatever, we're maybe bad at saying it or whatever, but we really do. We enjoy being here. We enjoy hanging out with all of you, and it's with great pride that we tell people we are a part of this church. It's something that we don't take lightly or for granted. And part of that reason is because I feel like there are some things that we do really, really well as a church. I mean, I'm just not even going to lie about that. If you'll remember a few years ago, about 2, maybe 3 years ago now, time gets away, I made a declaration one Sunday morning that we would do whatever it took, no matter the cost, to reach students for Christ. Every statistic shows us that if a child doesn't make a decision for Jesus by the time they turn 18, the chances are they never will. And so I told you that as long as I'm here, until you all boot me out the door, we would do whatever it takes to get kids to understand the importance of Jesus. And I feel like we do a pretty good job at that. I mean, there's always room for growth and improvement and different things, but we have a killer VBS program. I think ours is on par with any church that you could find of any size. We do a great job, and I'm proud of those who put forth the effort to make that happen. Of course, we have the Impact 180 program, and while we may have to change the name of that someday or do something a little different or whatever, we'll always have something where we're trying to meet those students and reach them and tell them of the love of Jesus. Darren does a good job with the youth groups, and we have a camp that we make sure every student gets to. The average national price for camp right now is $300 per student. Our camp is not that expensive. It's, upwards of the close to $200 a student. It's like $170 or $80. But we only have parents pay $5 a day, and then we take care of the rest because we want students to get to camp. We think it's that important that they hear the message of Jesus. It's awesome the way that you all have taken that challenge of making sure that students hear the message of Jesus and have ran with it, and I'm grateful for that. I feel like we do a pretty good job trying to make a presence in the community. We're always at the school, whether it be forced to be at the school or it be privileged to be at the school. We're always at the school, and not just for the students. More than once I've been called in. Darren has been called in to be there, not just for the students, but for the teachers as well. We make a presence at the county fair. We do things like the back to school, not the county fair, but the town fair, the whatever fall festival thing. That's what it's called, right? I just know it's like this weekend in September that we have no life. So, that weekend, because we're making a presence, right? We have the back to school fair where we're trying to help parents get back to school. We've helped many families in the community take care of maybe some bills that they couldn't take care of, such as electricity or gas or whatever the case may be, trying to let them know that Jesus is bigger than just what goes on a Sunday morning inside of 4 walls, right? We got to build the deck a few weeks ago. This last week, we had the privilege of helping a family kind of catch up with their mortgage a little bit and helping them out, and just some different things that we've been able to do because of the funds that you all make possible. And it's great to be able to make that kind of a presence and that kind of an impact in a community, and we are grateful for that. I think we are a friendly place to go and visit on a Sunday. If nothing else, the whole stinking greeting time that I can never get you to sit down from testifies to that. People always blame me for going over on the sermon, and I say, no, if you would just sit down after you shake a couple hands, we would get out of church on time, but you insist on chit-chatting, and that's awesome. I wouldn't trade that for anything because it means that we enjoy being around each other, and that's great. But there's always room for improvements in churches, right? And that's what I want to talk about this morning and maybe hit on just a little bit. If there were one area that I wish we handled a little better, one area that I believe the scriptures command us to handle a little better, it's in the area of our missions and our missions giving. That is an area that over the past few years, and I take some fault for this absolutely because of just my lack of communication and just so on, we've allowed this area to slip, and it's time for us to turn that around. I used to work for Young Life. You all know that. There was a period of time where I worked for that ministry for students. And part of the responsibility of an area director for Young Life is to go and to raise their salary. Okay? And so I know the complications and the frustrations that different ministries have as they're out there trying to raise funds. It has been said that being a pastor is the loneliest job on the planet, because while you're constantly in the midst of people, there's nobody really that you can confide in. Because if I have a problem, or if somebody's giving me a hard time, or if I'm frustrated with someone, it's usually one of you all. Now, which one of you all am I going to go tell about you all, right? It just doesn't happen that well. And I shouldn't talk about it at home because I don't want to skew the kids or anything, because sometimes it's just like a bump in the road. Man, that Darren, you know what he did today? Tomorrow I love him, but today I want to blacken his eye, right? I mean, we all have those relationships. He's never felt that way about me, of course, so that's good. But where do you go? Well, imagine, if you will, that you're a missionary, so you not only have the loneliness of the ministry job, right? But then you go and you ask somebody to help support you, and they tell you that you're not even worthy of their dollar. Now you feel like a total loser. And in some ways, even to the missions that we say we support, we've been doing that very thing, and it needs to stop. Currently, there are, as of yesterday, let me word it that way, 5 different missionaries that we have supported as a church. As of yesterday, these are the ones that we have supported. Central Christian College of the Bible, Shiloh Christian Children's Ranch, Lemoyne Christian Service Camp, Addicts Victorious, and then our Shining Light Fund. Just to give you a little bit of information about each one of those, Central Christian College is a college that trains ministers, missionaries, and future Christian leaders, male and female, in a Bible class setting. It's the school that I graduated from in my undergraduate studies. It's a very good school. It's one of the first schools in the country to tackle the full tuition scholarship, where any student can go there, and their cost is their books and their fees and their room and board. They do not have to pay credit hour tuition. That's covered for every student that goes there. Now, that's a huge deal. If you've ever been to college, you know that many students leave there with debt, right? I did, and I went to that college because instead of getting to celebrate in the whole tuition free, I helped make the tuition free happen when I worked there. But that's beside the point. They didn't go back on that and help us out at all. They just said, thank you for the work you're doing now. Good Christian brothers, I tell you. Now, it's a great school. You get a firm foundation of the faith, and you can do it at an affordable rate. Just this, when my whole ear thing started, for those of you who know about that, the first nurse that came in to get me ready for whatever, I was talking to her, and her son's going to be a junior this next year. He wants to go into ministry, but they don't have enough money to send him to school. And whenever they find out you're a pastor, you don't ever get like time to be sick or get... I've had 2 massages in my life. The first one I went to, she says, what do you do? I said, I'm a pastor. She goes, do you do marriage counseling? Well, my husband the other day, he was sitting there. I kid you not, the whole time. I turned around, I said, so now do I pay you or do you pay me? I'm at a loss here. But anyway, so this nurse finds out, that I'm in ministry, and she tells me about all these problems. I said, hey, have you ever heard of? And, was able to tell them about that possibility. The idea behind it is if the student works part-time during the school year and then upwards of 3/4 to full-time during the summer, they can leave college with absolutely zero debt. And when you're going into ministry, and your very first ministry is usually a $24,000 to $26,000 a year job, being able to graduate debt-free is a huge thing. That's a worthy cause to support. Shiloh Christian Children's Ranch, of course, is located. The offices are in Shelbina, Missouri. The locations of the ranches are in Clarence, Missouri, and Cahokia, Iowa, or Cahokia. Is that right? Did I say that right? Cahokia, Missouri. Yeah, that's where the ranches are. They take in troubled students. They take in maybe students that parents can't raise for right now for whatever reason, and they give them a Christian family setting to live in, a Christian school to attend, and of course they go to church each weekend. It's called a ranch because they have a ranch, and the students are taught responsibility and chipping in and helping out. And it's amazing the lives that are changed through these Christian families who love kids enough to say, I will have 12 or 13 kids living under my roof, and I will be their parent. Even if I'm not biologically their parent. And that's an awesome ministry that they have going. Lemoyne Christian Service Camp, of course, is the camp that we've been part of for years and years and years. I don't need to say a whole lot about that. It's a good camp. The programming is tremendous. It's got good facilities that are going to get better as, of course, they build the new dorms over the next year. And so we're excited to see that. Addicts Victorious is based in Quincy. It's a place where if you have an addiction of whatever sort, whether it be alcohol or drugs or gambling or pornography or whatever your addiction is, you can go for a move-in type setting, treatment. That's the word I'm looking for, where you stay there for 30 days and they scripturally try to show you and lead you out of that addiction and help you overcome that. And that's a good and worthy cause. Shining Light was the fund that we set up. We said we're going to give a portion of our missions money that we get each month to be able to give back to the community. And so we simply put it into a fund, called it Shining Light, and whenever somebody needed help, we had some money there in order to help them. Here's the great news and here's the bad news. The great news is each one of those is a good mission. The bad news is we set that up back in the day when we used to have faith promise rallies. And we called it our faith promise. And people would give the faith promise, and that giving was divided amongst these different missions. When's the last time you heard the phrase faith promise, other than maybe you wrote it out on a check memo? It's been a long time, right? The Faith Promise Rally is good in theory, but has become difficult over the years. And there's some reasons for that. When you are here in Liberty and you have no immediate hotels or restaurants, it gets pretty expensive to have all of your missionaries come in for a full-fledged weekend, try to get them hotels in Quincy and try to keep them fed and so on and so forth, and have the rally. The other thing is there's never a good time to have the Faith Promise Rally anymore. If we try to do it in the fall, once school kicks back off, there are sports. And if sports fall on the weekend, we're going to have low attendance irregardless of the Faith Promise Rally. If we do it during the winter months, I guarantee you we'll have a dry winter, except for that Sunday. There'll be ice this thick on the ground, and only a handful of people will show up. And that's not bad. We're thankful for that handful, but when you have missionaries coming from all over the place, you want to have more than a handful of your people present. If we do it in the spring, again, we're up against the sports calendar. And I hate to say this as a preacher, it drives me nuts, but sports is going to win. And while maybe that's a whole separate issue that needs to be tackled, that's the reality. And it's not fair to ask these folks to come in when we know that a large group is going to be gone because of this event or that. And then we get to the summer months, and you have vacations and camping and everything else that goes on. And again, attendance drops pretty dramatically during the summer. So when do you even schedule the Faith Promise? And here's what's happened. From a fully funded ministry team, we have gone from that down to, and I have no idea who it is. I don't know who gives what over the course of the year. It's set up very specifically, so I don't know. I just know that we have one person who faithfully every week gives a Faith Promise check. One person giving a check to support our missions. And that's the way it's set up right now. And we have failed the missions that we say we support. financially failed. We still pray for them, and that's good, and they need that. We still visit some of them and do some different things, like we collect items for Shiloh during VBS. We send students to camp, and we send a lot of students. We're one of the major contributors of students to camp right now, which is pretty impressive considering, our location and the size of our community. But we do things like that. But when it comes to funding them, we have failed. I'll give you an example. In July, checks were sent to the different missions. The biggest check was $177, but it had been 4 or 5 months since we had sent anything before that because it just hadn't been given. So we asked some questions as we met as a missions team, those who are serving on that currently. Are these missions that we support worthy to continue? Do we need to make some changes? And how do we get this information out to you so that we can start supporting our missions once again? Well, we made some changes, and we made them officially yesterday. And so that's why I say missions we support as of yesterday, because as of today, that list has changed just a little bit. We dropped 2. We added 1. And so we're going to talk about that here for just a second. If you'll give me the next slide. We kept Central Christian College. It's important for students to be trained in ministry. And it's important for them to be able to have a place to go that they can learn, that they can grow, and that they can graduate debt-free and go out and serve in the kingdom. I think pretty much everybody would agree with that that's a pretty worthy cause. We kept Shiloh Christian Children's Ranch because, again, we will do whatever it takes to make sure a student learns the gospel of Jesus Christ. And that's another way of accomplishing that. Lemoyne Christian Service Camp. I know over the past couple of years we've had some of you express some interest and concerns with different things you've heard or different things you've seen there at the camp. And the way we decided to leave that alone and to continue to support the camp is by doing this in our mind, and maybe this will help you too. We had to separate the business side of Lemoyne Camp from what goes on during the weeks in the summer when we send our students. The business side is decided by a board. What goes on during those weeks of camp by the students is decided by the local churches who are deaning it. Like, for example, Darren had the final say last week as dean of the camp as to what those students learned and to how they learned it and to what they wouldn't learn. What we have seen year after year after year, based upon those weeks of camps that the students go to that are led by the churches, we've had students come to Christ. You can't beat that, right? We may not always agree with everything that the board of Lemoyne decides. You probably won't always agree with everything that the board of Liberty Christian Church decides, but still we support the ministry. And so we have decided to continue in that. You'll notice that we took off Addicts Victorious. We'd had a few of you, as well as some outside voices, share concerns with that ministry, concerns that we felt were valid, and so we decided to make a change. I'm not going to go into detail with that. If you really want to know the nitty-gritty, maybe you could ask me one-on-one. But we decided that we would no longer support that ministry with funds from the church, but that in its place we would put Young Life of Quincy. And there was a reason for that. Again, anything we can do to help students win the message of Christ. Young Life in Quincy has a new area director. His name is Curtis, and Curtis is about bringing people into a relationship with Jesus. He teaches them baptism. He sits down and has Bible studies with them. He visits with, he's very sincere about changing lives. We've had the opportunity to meet with him and to visit with him, and we believe that he's on the right track, and we want to support that. We also, as a church, I don't know if you know this, we do Young Life. It's called Impact 180 here. We go into the school, we make a lot of noise, the kids come and have fun, and then eventually they come to the Bible study. And that's what Young Life does. They do it better than we do it because that's all that they do. They have camps that they go to that are first class, top rate, and have a ministry that impacts a lot of students. Our dollars specifically are supporting the Young Life Quincy branch of that, whom we have a good relationship with. We use some of their equipment from time to time. For example, the impact that we do in the snow globe, that globe or that bubble or whatever you want to call that, that's Young Lives, and they let us use it, and have given us access to their um, meeting rooms and stuff. We have a very good relationship with them, and we feel like they're doing a great ministry. The other thing that we took off is the Shining Light Fund, the fund that we use to do things in the community with. And that may seem kind of weird to you, since I said I think we do things in the community well. But there's a reason that we made that decision. A little over a year ago, or maybe right at a year ago, now, we as a board sat down and I said, if we're going to ask people to give 10% of their money to the church, we need to be willing as a board to give 10% of our money to do some good. And they unanimously agreed with that. And so each month, 10% of the offering that we collect from you goes to doing things in the community. To have the Shining Light Fund was kind of a redundant fund, if you will. And so we decided to remove it from that and just use that tithe fund, which is supplied way more than the Shining Light ever was anyway. And so we're still able to do things in the community. It's just coming from a different place. So these are the 4 ministries that we are supporting as missions for our church right now. And we decided that we're going to make a commitment to them. Instead of we'll give you whatever we can, whenever we can, we're going to guarantee them $100 a month across the board, okay? If we collect more than that for missions, they will get more than that, but we're going to guarantee as a church $100 a month. That's $400 a month. That's really not a lot of money for a church our size, right? I mean, let's just break it down this way, because I've been doing the math. If each family would give $5 to $10 more a month, we would have way more than the $400 to be able to divide amongst them. I'm sorry, $5 to $10 more a week. I said a month. I meant a week. So $20 a month, a family would fund those from our standpoint. It's kind of cool. You have to let us know, though, that you're giving to missions, okay? You do that one of 2 ways. You can on your check, on your memo. If you give by check, you could say, hey, $1 million goes to the general fund and the $250,000 goes to the missions. Okay? Divide that up however you want to divide that up. If you give with, I like that idea. I don't know about you. If you give like our family does with the PushPay app through our church app, you can click, general offering. You can click missions. You can click whatever you need to click there, and your money will go wherever it needs to go, and the money can be taken that way. But here's the biblical reason. In Philippians, and I know that I'm running long, and so I'm going to just kind of bring it to a close. But in Philippians, the whole letter, all 4 chapters of the book of Philippians, is a letter of thanksgiving from Paul to a supporting church. And he makes a comment in the 4th chapter that even when nobody else was supporting them, the Philippian church was, and it made all the difference in the world to him. That's a pretty cool statement if you stop and you contemplate what he's saying. Starting at verse 14 in the 4th chapter, he says, "It was good for you to share in my troubles. Moreover, as you Philippians know, in the early days of your acquaintance with the gospel, when I set out from Macedonia, not one church shared with me in the matter of giving and receiving, except you only." And because of that, this church had a special place in his heart. And I think if you read the letter of Philippians, this church had a special place in God's heart because they were a giving church. I want us to be a giving church. I want us to be able to support our missionaries correctly and better than what we have been. But in order for us to do that, it takes your help. We put out each month the budget. You can see how much money comes in and exactly where it goes, every penny of it. Ashley does a good job of breaking that down for you to be able to see that on a list. And I'm just going to be honest. At the end of some months, we're a few dollars over, meaning we collected a few dollars more than what went out. And by a few dollars, I mean a few dollars. And then there are some months where we're a couple $300 under, meaning what we collected did not cover everything that went out that month. Over the course of a year, it ends up working out to where we about break even. And we're thankful for that. we're thankful that we've not had to come and beg for money. And I don't want to sound like I'm begging for money today. But when it comes to supporting missions, we are always, always drastically under. And we need to pick that up. As a church, we need to pick that up. And so you're going to be getting some information over the next few weeks. You'll get little blurbs about this ministry or that ministry because we want to make you aware of what they're doing and how it's going. But I want us to become a church that if we say we support these ministries, we truly support them. That makes sense? All right. If you're visiting, again, I'm sorry. I know today wasn't, like a sermon. Come next, no, not next Sunday. I'm on vacation. I mean, you can come. Dale's a good preacher. And then the time after that, I'll make you cry and laugh all at once so that we can just say we had a good sermon. So, but outside of that, I just want to thank you guys. I want to thank you for what you do. You're making a difference in our community and our students' lives, and now we're going to start making a bigger difference around the world as we continue to support these missions. So we're going to pray. Darren's got a closing song, and then we're going to be out of here. So, Father, we thank you for the opportunity to be here today. We thank you for your love and for your mercy and for your grace. And Father, as we look at supporting these missions, as these missionaries, I pray that you would give us a desire to do so well, and that it wouldn't be something that we do as an afterthought, but that it would be on the forefront. Father, may the $100 a month that we're going to say we're going to give, may that be only a drop in the bucket, because we get so mission-minded that we're able to make a drastic difference for them. Thank you for these that are here, and may we always give you the credit for everything good that happens. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.